champ cars are in Montreal, where the party has been world-class. Bienvenue.
Welcome to Canada. It's a Maple Leaf State. Canada, oh, Canada. It's great. The people are nice and they speak French too. If you don't like it, man, you're sniff glue. Let's go to Canada. Let's leave today. Canada, oh, Canada. I see who play.
On a beautiful day in Montreal, perched on an island, the Ile Notre Dame, across the mighty St. Lawrence River from downtown Montreal, the Formula One cars have competition from the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Welcome to the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Here's a look at the championship situation. Cristiano Damata has swept both bonus points for provisional pole and pole position. He now has a 44-point gap over a tie between Bruno Junqueira and Patrick Carpentier for the 2002 title. But all of the guys at the top of the standings are also close to the front of the field as we get set for a very historic day of racing here in Montreal. Hello, everyone, and welcome live to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I'm Bob Barsha, along with Tommy Kendall. Glad to have you with us here on Speed Channel for a very big day up here. And Tommy, for the three Canadians in this field, this is a very important race.
And I'll tell you what, Patrick Carpentier has the potential to absolutely steal the show. Starting fourth on the grid, starting about 5 races ago, I saw a new attitude from Patrick, seemingly saying, the hell with it. I don't care what happens next year. Since then, he's been the man to beat. And now he's already the overwhelming crowd favorite because he is Quebecois. However, there's additional support because of the perceived slight. It looks like he might be odd man out at players' foresight. My cabbie the other day says, how can they not re-sign him? He's won 2 of the last 4. I didn't have a very good answer for him. One thing I know, if Patrick makes it to the top of the podium and Jerry Forsyth does not have a contract extension for him, he will have an easier time getting out of, a tougher time getting out of town than Art Modell did when he stole the Browns from Cleveland.
You get the idea. This is a very important race here in Canada. Right now, let's get down to the pit lane and learn more about the #1 man in the series. Here's Derek Daly.
Thank you, Bob. As you can imagine, the color and excitement here is just immense. Now, you talk about Patrick Carpentier. If he's to win this, the man he may have to beat, of course, is the #6 here, and the man who flies the Brazilian flag, Cristiano Damata, his 6th pole position of the year. Cristiano, however, had a problem right after the morning warm-up. They had a look at the catch tank on the back of the car. It was full of what they call foreign matter, which they didn't like. They yanked the engine out, and they are still, to this moment, trying to fit the new engine. So Cristiano, things are not going according to plan as we speak. But another crowd favorite here is just down the pit lane with Calvin Fish. Calvin?
Double D, tremendous crowd support for the French Canadians and Alex Tagliani. That puts extra pressure on you. Does that affect you when you're in the race car?
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. I've never seen something like this since I arrived in kart. Those guys are completely crazy, but that's what we need. And kart is just, you know, really popular in Quebec, and hopefully we can give them a good result.
We talk about the pressure, but you got PT starting behind you. He's going to be going for a win here, at least a podium finish. What do you guys think about turn 1? There's a bottleneck down there. Is that a concern for you guys starting mid-pack?
Well, you know, I'm just hoping that I have all the piece of my car after turn 1 and 2, and hopefully everything will work well and we can finish on the podium.
Okay, Tag, good luck. Let's go down to Scott with PT on his story.
Another crowd favorite, Paul Tracy, very fast here all weekend. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the lap he wanted to in qualifying. Again, in morning one, very, very fast. How are things for the race?
Good. I think we finally, you know, we just had disappointing days. Both qualifying sessions didn't go the way we wanted it to. Car's fast. I'm ready to go. We just need to have some luck, and hopefully we can get a good finish. So our first goal is just to finish the race.
Now, the big issue, talking to a number of the drivers, has been the brakes and the gearbox. Same for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're going from 7th. Every chicane is 2nd, 3rd gear, and you're going up to 7th every straightaway. So we're using a lot of gearbox and a lot of brakes, and using a lot of the gearbox to slow the car down in the braking zone. So it's real hard on the equipment.
Well, best of luck. And there you have it. All these guys saying they need to be aggressive, but at the same time, take care of their equipment. Derek?
A man who would love to spoil the day for Patrick Carpentier carries a very famous number. Jacques Villeneuve carried this number 27, but Dario Franchitti now has it. Qualifying went exceptionally well. I know you'd love to spoil the French-Canadian party this afternoon.
Absolutely. I hate to disappoint all these great fans out here, but my job's to go out there and try and win this thing today. That's what I want to do. I think the two French Canadian guys, Pat and Alex, are going to be fired up, but I think Damata is going to be tough to beat, as is Bruno.
For a large part of qualifying, you struggled a little bit. Then you came really, really good. With what you know of the warm-up this morning, do you have an extra sense of confidence starting this beside Damata?
Well, we stopped early this morning because the car felt really good. So I think that could be a good sign. We'll see. I'll just give it my best and see what happens, Derek.
Thanks, Ario. Best of luck.
All right, thanks very much, Derek. Now, in the Formula One races, they make standing starts here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, but here we're going to do a Champ Car style rolling start, and as you can see, this huge crowd is ready. Lately, no man has stood taller in the Kart FedEx Championship Series than the driver they call Shorty. Derek Daly is with Cristiano Damata.
But Bob, at the moment, Cristiano was standing without his racing car. Cristiano, I know an engine problem after the warm-up. I know they're feverishly working back there. Are you concerned?
You're always concerned a little bit because we haven't run this engine before, but everything should be okay. The guys have a lot of experience on engine changes. Toyota has a couple more good engines in the truck, so should be fine.
Your qualifying laps were spectacular towards the end. Does that translate into a race feel from this car that gives you an element of confidence that you think, you're half a lap ahead of these guys before you start?
No, I don't think I'm going to be half a lap ahead of everybody, but I do think we have a strong car. The car was fast in every single session here, so there wasn't any type of track conditions that the car was slow. So that, of course, gives me a lot of confidence in the car for the race. But race is a race, and sometimes new situation appears, and who knows. But we are very well prepared. But 80 laps, a lot of things can happen.
And as you can see, fellas, behind Cristiano, they do wheel his car to the head of the grid. So the engine change and the frantic work done by this team so far looks good.
Adrian Fernandez coming back from a bad accident at Vancouver, sat out mid-Ohio, back last weekend. So far here in Montreal, how have you been?
Well, it's been a little sore, especially last night. I was, a little bit in pain. Here, in difference to an air car, you have to use a lot of the curves, so that really doesn't help. But I think we will be fine at the end of the race. It's a long race, a lot of situation with the brakes, so, at the end of the day, you have to take care of your vehicle.
Well, best of luck for today. Adrian starting, unfortunately, at the back of the pack, but he's run pretty good in the practice sessions, looking for a good day today.
Well,
Calvin?
Bruno Junqueira will start third in the target car. And Bruno, you said this track is very difficult for you, particularly under braking for these chicanes.
Yeah, it's quite difficult, I think, for everybody, but I like to carry speed to the corner, and it's quite difficult to brake in here. But I'll try my best, try to keep pressure on Cristiano, and let's see if we can get a good result today for Team Target.
You're a factor last week for the win, but a little bobble in the pits cost you at least the position, maybe the win there. With this competitiveness, with the competitiveness of the field, do you really need a mistake-free race, Bruno, to take the win?
Sure. I think going to be a lot of drivers that's going to be mistake-free, and I have to be one of them, and even that, go really fast.
All right, Bruno, good luck this afternoon. Let's go down to Double D with a man who's had a much better weekend.
With Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy, the weekend's been quite good so far, and you've been exceptionally good in the past on street circuits, which this sort of is. You feel good?
I feel better. We made some gains with the car between last week and this week. It's certainly going in the right direction, and we qualified 6th best we've qualified in a long time. Still off a bit from the front running pace, but we're optimistic for the race, and we'll see what comes.
Thanks, Jimmy. Best of luck. Remember, Vasser came within one place of winning at Long Beach earlier.
But something interesting is going on that row of the grid. Jimmy Vasser will start alongside Kenny Brack, with whom he has had a contretemps twice at turn 1 thus far this season, TK.
Actually, it's been a couple more times. First lap in Monterey, and then first lap Chicago, or first corner Chicago, and then first corner in Vancouver. So I'm glad we didn't bring that up in the interview. That's been kind of beaten to death. So, but I'm sure it's gone through both of their minds.
Oh, we've got a lot still to come in our pre-race coverage here at the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal, the debut of the Champ Cars at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. The cars will top 190 miles an hour on the straightaway, and at those kinds of speeds, things can get a little blurry. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, the moment gradually approaches where Patrick Carpentier has been waiting for all weekend long, where you can actually get in the race car and get away from the massive media attention. Patrick, it's been a very smooth weekend for you. Unlike your teammates, things have been going very well, and even after the warm-up, car looks strong for this afternoon.
Yeah, it was. It's fantastic. Ford Cosworth came through, made a lot of change for yesterday. We qualified up the front, and it's pretty good. There's no better place to do it than here, so you should have seen the crowd there. They're going crazy, and I love it. I think it's great. Great for kart and great for us.
All right, Pat, have a great afternoon. Let's get down to Scott Pruitt, who I believe is standing by with Tony Kanaan.
I was standing by with Tony. All these guys have been called to get into their cars. I had a chance to talk to Tony a little bit up and down weekend. He said, yeah, everything's been good mechanically, no problems there, but we just haven't got our hands around the setup. They're going to be looking for big things today with the Pioneer Lola. Guys?
All right, thanks very much. Tony Kanaan climbs in, looking for a good day. Every driver prepares for his race in a different and distinctive way. Although I do recall the driver, when asked if he had any superstitions about getting ready for the race, he said, no, I don't believe in superstition. It brings bad luck. There is Kenny Brack, who will start alongside Jimmy Vasser back on row 3. We're going to take another quick break and be back to wrap up the pre-race festivities here at the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Welcome back live to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Should I say above the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve? Olympic rowing basin from the 76 games on the right, and the sinuous 2.7-mile, 13-turn track. Now let's turn to Reverend Hunter Floyd, Senior Chaplain of Kart Ministries, for our invocation.
Ce merveilleux après-midi auquel nous sommes tous conviés. Dieu, nous te remercions pour cette belle journée et pour cet événement ici pour la première fois, et nous espérons encore pour plusieurs années à Montréal. Nous te remercions pour l'amitié entre les pays qui rend possible la présentation de cette série ici sur le circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Nous te remercions pour tous ceux qui ont travaillé fort à l'organisation de cette fin de semaine. Nous te demandons maintenant la protection pour les pilotes et leurs écuries, pour les officiels, pour tous ceux qui sont participants, ainsi que pour les nombreux fans ici présents. Heavenly Father, again, we ask your protection for our drivers and their crews, for our officials and the many people who work at every level of the sport, and certainly for the thousands of fans who have gathered here today. We ask your blessing on us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Merci beaucoup, Révérend Hunter. Alors maintenant, je vous invite à vous lever debout et à accueillir Mélanie Renaud, une vedette montante de la chanson québécoise qui nous interprétera les hymnes nationaux.
Our national anthems, ladies and gentlemen, please rise, Mélanie Renaud.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight are the ramparts we watch, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our terre de nos aïeux, ton front est saint de fleurons glorieux, car ton bras supporte l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for
Outstanding rendition of the U.S. and Canadian anthems by local Montreal vocalist Melanie Renaud. Beautifully done. And now we're set for 80 laps of racing. Of the field of 18, 8 drivers have former experience of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. 4 of them in Formula One machinery, 3 in the Toyota Atlantic Championship, and 1, Paul Tracy, won a race here many years ago in a Formula Ford 2-liter car. You look at Oriol Servia preparing for today's race. A warm day with a light breeze and much work ahead for these drivers. Now time for the command to start engines from Dan O'Neill, President and CEO of Molson.
Parce que bientôt ça va cogner d'aplomb le soleil. Il faut penser aussi à s'hydrater, demeurer bien hydraté tout au long de la course. Comme les pilotes d'ailleurs, je voyais Patrick à bord de la voiture pendant les hymnes nationaux. Ça doit être infernal la chaleur qu'il doit endurer présentement à bord de la voiture.
Donc oui, effectivement, les pilotes boivent beaucoup d'eau. D'ailleurs, ils vont même boire de l'eau ou certains liquides énergétiques dans leur voiture tout le long de la course. Ce qu'on appelle un camel pack. Ceux qui font du vélo de montagne, les gens qui font du vélo de montagne savent de quoi je parle. Et puis,
Across the mighty St. Lawrence River, downtown Montreal, with nearly half a millennium of history. In the background, the green hulk of Mount Royal, in English, Mont Royal, in my fractured French. Waiting for Mr. O'Neill to come to the microphone to give the command to fire the engines and get set for 80 laps of racing around this 2.7-mile circuit. A beautiful day, as I mentioned, an enormous crowd on hand for this inaugural event. Here in Canada, where motorsports is a part of the national fabric, what could be more emotional than a race here at the circuit named for the patron saint of Canadian racing drivers, Gilles Villeneuve.
This is the point that's the hardest for the drivers because the adrenaline is really pumping, yet they can't do anything about it just yet.
Welcome, everyone. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Finally, that all-important command. And we are underway on a multilingual broadcast, French and English, of course. Calvin Fish.
Well, my thoughts for today, Bob, are that Cristiano Damata's team will hate to see that engine problem, but they're the brakes you need. You need that on the last lap of the warm-up and not the first lap of the race. Your thoughts, Scott Pruitt?
I'm going to have to go with the same thing. Cristiano Damata shows speed, but also shows patience, especially after his incident in Mid-Ohio a couple weeks ago. I'm betting on Cristiano to take it to the checkered flags. Derek?
This is a historic event. There are still great memories here of the first Grand Prix when their man Gilles Villeneuve won the race. If one of the local boys, Tag or Patrick, can win here this afternoon, we will see something right next door to a riot.
Thank you, gentlemen. TK, give me a name, buddy. Who do you like?
Well, it's hard to go against Cristiano, but the main thing is going through turn one. That's what I'm waiting on. Can they all make it through?
That brings our pre-race show to a conclusion. We'll be back in a moment live for the start of the Grand Prix of Montreal. Stay with us. New clothing line. Paul Tracy has his own go-kart team. Patrick Carpentier has a new boat. None of that will buy them a break today on home soil in Canada. Today they hope to shine in the debut for the Kart FedEx Championship in Montreal. On Friday, each of the three was beset by problems in qualifying, leaving them in the back half of the grid. Saturday, they bounced back, but this is no ordinary race for the homeboys. This is Montreal, and the crowd wants nothing short of victory. Across the St. Lawrence River from downtown Montreal, welcome to round 13 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002, the Molson Indy Montreal. On a gorgeous day, welcome to the circuit named for legendary Canadian Formula One driver Gilles Villeneuve. But this is an historic day for all of motorsports because today, American-style champ car racing comes to Montreal for the first time. I'm Bob Varsha. Here's a look at the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole for the sixth time this year to go with his 6 victories, championship leader Cristiano D'Amata start next to Vancouver winner Dario Franchitti. On row 2, Bruno Junqueira starts next to the man he is tied with for second in the championship and one of 2 enormous local favorites, Patrick Carpentier. On row 3, Kenny Brack will start alongside Jimmy Vasser. Those two have collided more than once at the first turn of a race this season. Derek Daly.
And you can see, Bob, the house is jam-packed here. For Friday and Saturday, we had more than 100,000 people show up. And of course, we thought they'd just give general support. Well, we found out there's support, and then there's different type of support. There's Canadians and then the French Canadians. Tagliani and Patrick Carpentier, we know they have huge support, but we were found out that during the course of the weekend, Paul Tracy, although he's Canadian, had an unusual type of lukewarm support. They said because he's from Toronto. And they said if you're from Toronto, as far as they're concerned, you're not a Quebecois, you're from somewhere else.
All right, thank you, Derek. On row 4, Scott Dixon will start alongside another of those local favorites, Alex Tagliani. On row 5, Japanese driver Shinji Nakano will be next to the thrill from West Hill in Toronto, Paul Tracy. Calvin Fish.
Bob, a lot of Canadian pride on rows 4 and 5 of the grid. Alex Tagliani starts 8. It has not been a smooth weekend for Tag. He crashed his primary car on Friday, switched to the backup car, salvaged that grid position. But I think his problems are just starting because he has PT, Paul Tracy, starting right behind him, and he is very frustrated. He thought he had a front row qualifying car, didn't come together. I think if either of these guys can get through the first turn, they still have a chance for a podium finish here today.
All right, thank you, Calvin. Moving to row 6, Christian Fittipaldi, one of 4 former Grand Prix drivers who know this circuit well, will start next to another of those drivers, Tora Takagi of Japan. On row 7, Tony Kanaan will start next to Spanish driver Oriol Servia. Scott Pruitt.
Oriol Servia is going to be one of the guys to watch today. He was very fast yesterday morning before qualifying, and unfortunately, his engine let go. Today, he's starting at the back of the pack, but they're looking for big things. Quick again this morning in the warm-up. I see these guys going to be carving their way to the front.
All right, thank you, Scott. On row 8, Michel Jourdain Jr. will start next to his Mexican countryman, Adrian Fernandez. And on row 9, rookie Mario Dominguez will start next to Michael Andretti, last in the field. But Michael is one of those 4 former Formula One drivers who have raced at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve before. In all, 8 of the 18 starters have previous experience on this track. In addition to the Formula One drivers, Michael, Tora Takagi, Shinji Nakano, and Christian Fittipaldi, 3 drivers, Jimmy Vasser, Alex Tagliani, and Patrick Carpentier, have won Toyota Atlantic Championship races here, and Paul Tracy once won a Formula Ford 2000 event. Tommy Kendall is with me as always. Let's turn to our Midas track map for a closer look at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Well, the start-finish line is the first of 4 high-speed blasts, punctuated by very, very hard braking and tight 2 turn complexes. Turn 1, where the start is focused, a very tight left-hander heading into a 180 horseshoe. The other key place is the 8-9 complex here and the 12-13, which sets up either a pass coming out of or coming out of the hairpin into 12-13 or exiting 12-13, heading down into turn 1. Very hard on brakes, but the guys like it because the circuit, they can attack.
Short version, very fast, very twisty. Here's a look at our race analysis. At 80 laps, today's event will be longer than the Formula One Grand Prix. Our maximum pit window, 21 laps. You may go no further on a load of fuel and tires. That means it's a 3-stop race, and if you're going to stop early, your window will open at laps 17, 38, and 59. Now we've had a couple of cars visit the pits during the pace lap. There's Michael Andretti. He's the second of the two. Let's go to Scott Pruitt.
That's exactly right. Came in, there's some sort of problem with the dash. They weren't getting a readout on the dash. Came in, reset a number of the boxes in the car. Obviously, I think they got the problem resolved, shut it off, started it up, and off he's going. Calvin?
Scott, a problem for Christian Fittipaldi in the Lily car also. A gear position sensor hadn't been hooked up after this morning's warm-up. They were working on the car. They brought the car in, hooked it back up. He's been able to assume his grid position. He should be fine.
Got to clarify on Michael. We saw Michael last time he started last in Toronto. They came in and topped up his tank. That was a no-no per the rules, and they brought him back in. That time they did not add fuel. They were just cycling the ECU. It's no different than your computer when it crashes at home. You just shut it off, fire it back up, and somehow they fix themselves.
Now the run from the final turn, 13, very slow and tight, to the start-finish straightaway and the flag stand is the shortest we've seen all year long, a little over 200 meters. That means starter Jim Swintal is going to have very little time to eyeball this field and see if they will line up 2 by 2, side by side, the way he wants them. So let's go to the voice of Irene Chambers in race control as she brings the field around.
Teammate 2 by 2, please.
Very late. And a very late green flag it was, but the field was nicely formed. Down into turn 1 for the first time, and then the Senna curve to the right. Oh, 2 cars off.
Tagliani got into, I think that's Kenny Brack.
Kenny Brack is the only car immobile. You saw him gesturing for a push start, and the crowd was going absolutely crazy. Michael Andretti on the move in blue and white, going around Adrian Fernandez. Kenny Brack has still not been pushed away. First run down to the hairpin. And the yellow flags wave from the flag stand. We have a full course yellow. Kenny Brack would not restart. There are the yellow flags. Derek Daly can tell us more.
I'm actually standing about 10 feet from Kenny Brack. I listened to his radio conversation. I can't tell you what he said, but it basically was, I can't believe it. The tire marks are on the right rear all over the tire because he was lifted from the ground by somebody sticking a wheel in. I'm not sure who it was. The right rear suspension is broken. I can see the top wishbone is broken from here. From my vantage point, I can see that.
Oh, is it possible that Kenny Brack is out of the race? Let's take another look at what happened.
That's Alex Tagliani on the inside.
Oh!
The whole car just left.
Scott Dixon in the target Chip Ganassi car following. Now Michael Andretti, in addition to his stop before the green flag, has a left rear down.
When he passed Adrian Fernandez, it looked like he just clipped Adrian's right front wing plate, and that would be the exact spot that it would cut the tire.
Scott Pruitt is there.
They're changing. He had some sort of contact out there, cut his left rear tire down. The crew goes to work. Motor oil guys getting some fuel in, as well as 4 brand new Bridgestone tires, and off he goes. Meanwhile, a number of other guys came in and out. Adrian Fernandez, 4 Bridgestone tires and a full load of fuel. as well as Michel Jourdain also got the same practice. So these guys are gambling a little bit on strategy.
The reset button. Press the Honda reset button, please. Notice the white line on the pit exit. Drivers must stay to the left of that line until they reach the end of it. On board from Adrian Fernandez, Michael on the right. That was in turn 8 and 9. May have been the source of the problem that took down Michael's left rear tire. We'll take a quick break while we're under yellow and be back in just a moment. 6th DNF of the year for Kenny Brack. Welcome back live to the Ile Notre Dame, which houses the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal. We expect to go green shortly. Here's another look at what brought out the yellow flag. A huge flight for Kenny Brack, almost taking out his teammate Scott Dixon. And I'll correct my math. This is the 7th DNF, or early exit, for Brack.
Ah, there was a little bit of an assist from PT on the backside, right up the gearbox shot to Tagliani, and that knocked him. He was pretty much side by side with Brack.
One more look from down low. Coming around to take the green flag now, Cristiano D'Amata.
You're green.
Dario Franchitti is second, followed by Patrick Carpentier, Bruno Junqueira, and Jimmy Vasser, the top 5. Last 2 cars in line, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Mario Dominguez both made quick pit stops under the yellow flag. On board with Paul Tracy. Down to the hairpin. Oh, Jimmy Vasser. Oh, sliding off Patrick Carpentier.
Tag.
Oh, Alex Tagliani. Couldn't get close enough to see that bright maple leaf on his nose. Trying to move up one space, he lost a bunch. Off the final corner using all of that new concrete patch that was laid overnight on Friday. Across the stripe to complete lap 4 of 80. There is Carpentier. Like Tagliani, absolutely inundated with press and public attention this weekend. Calvin Fish in the pit lane.
Well, a major concern for the Honda runners here, Bob, is fuel economy. They're really not getting good mileage at this track. I spoke to a number of the teams this morning. They think they're going to have to run full lean on this first stint, and that will certainly affect Dario running in towards the front of the field.
Thanks, Calvin. There is Dario Franchitti in the cool car. Carpentier, Bruno Junqueira, who had a near run-in with a squirrel on Saturday. He is in grave danger of having it become his nickname. Derek Daly.
Just to continue Calvin's story about the fuel, Team Green, of course, having 3 drivers. Honda appears to be the least fuel efficient. Michael, in that 3-car team, uses more fuel than anybody else. Paul Tracy, as aggressive as his style is, believe it or not, he uses the least amount of fuel to do the same speed. And even though Paul uses the least amount, he was still very concerned about having enough fuel to run flat out for this first stint. Scott?
Following up on that, Derek, Tony Kanaan, same problem with he's another Honda runner. Very concerned about fuel mileage. In fact, he was complaining to his engineer they had to trim it out so much, lean the engine out so much that they were losing too much horsepower, and he was afraid he might not be able to compete head-to-head with these guys.
Yet all 3 engine manufacturers have victories this season. Alex Tagliani spun all the way to the back of the pack. Let's check out what happened to him.
You see Jimmy defending, and then Jimmy starts to go back to the other side, and Tag says, I'm coming anyway. He was way, way inside there where there's not a lot of grip.
Another look from down low. Jimmy Vasser in yellow, Tagliani in blue. on the gas just a little bit too early. Paul Tracy almost got into the back of Jimmy Vasser. Watch this. Lights up the right front, Bridgestone. Let's go to Calvin Fish with more on Tagliani.
Neil Mickelwright, that's not the first lap that Tag was looking for. Did he say anything to you?
No, he did utter an expletive that would suggest he was dissatisfied with his performance at that point. So still a long way to go, so we're just going to try and pick him off.
Narrow window here in terms of the pit stops, Neil. Can you play with that at all, or are you pretty much locked in?
No, at this point, I think we'll just pretty much stick with the strategy that we were at. We don't want to stop any more than we have to, so right now we're going to see, earliest we'll stop will be lap 17.
Neil, going to be a long day for Tag out there, guys.
No question about that. If you look at Bruno Junqueira, that's in the turn 3-4 area. Into the bright sunshine. Perhaps the warmest day we've had of the 3 here in Montreal. Temperature in the 80s. The breeze is negligible, but what there is blowing from the drivers right to left as they head up the start-finish straightaway. Comes third place Carpentier, Junqueira, Vasser, and Tracy. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more of the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Stand by for more from Quebec. Welcome back live to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the Ile Notre Dame and the St. Lawrence River and the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. There's the look down at race leader Cristiano Namada and Dario Franchitti chasing him thanks to our Honda Skycam. Our thanks to Honda for providing us this great aerial platform on an absolutely gorgeous day here in Quebec. Coming up tonight, check out Speed News, the NASCAR edition. Coming up at 7 p.m., 30 minutes of NASCAR. Whether or not you saw that Winston Cup race last night at Bristol, Tennessee, you'll want to see the NASCAR edition of Speed News. We've got it all covered for you. Who hit whom, who's mad at whom, how happy is Jeff Gordon to break that long winless drought. And then 30 minutes of news from the rest of motorsports, including today's kart race at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Speed News. I'm Bob Varsha with Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Calvin Fish, and Scott Pruitt. Here comes Paul Tracy, followed by Christian Fittipaldi. Up front, Cristiano Namada is able to leap off the corners ahead of Dario Franchitti. Calvin Fish has more on Namada.
Well, a quick update on the leader. I just spoke to the TRD guys, the guys from Toyota, about that new engine in Cristiano's car. They said everything is fine. Temperatures, everything looks good with the pressures, so he should be good to go. And I think what you're seeing there, Bob, is maybe a consequence of that full lean mode that some of the Honda runners are going through, whereas Cristiano has maybe a little bit more fuel to burn. Let's go down to Scott Pruitt.
A little voodoo love with the Shell team and Jimmy Vasser. I went by and talked to Jimmy earlier today, went in the back of their transporter, and there, a voodoo table set up. I said, what's that all about? He said, we've had so much problem with turn 1, we had to do something. Well, looks like it's paid off for him so far. Guys?
Thanks very much, Scott and Calvin. Tommy, because we run methanol fuel and not gasoline, I would imagine a richer mixture helps keep the engines cooler.
Well, it does act as a coolant. It cools the air charge as much as anything, which helps them make some more power. They can actually run a little bit more timing and so forth. But it's interesting. This is the first time people are wondering how can guys be in fuel trouble with the new fueling rules, and the amount of fuel they give you. Let's see a replay. What's going on here? Jourdain trying to come down the inside of Michael.
Oh, that was close.
Sees Michael coming down and is able to get out of it. Let's see if it opens him up for another shot from behind. It does not. But again, the fuel, it's calculated, I believe, based on if you start with a full tank, you need to get 1.66. What this is telling me is that the Hondas unable to even get 1.66 miles per gallon now. So they might have to adjust those numbers in order to keep the concept the same, namely guys not having to worry about fuel.
You see the field streaming through 1 and 2. You see the concrete patch in turn 1, the left-hander. That was laid down overnight. A lot of racing going on here in Montreal this weekend. And these Champ cars are heavier than the Formula One.
And you saw Dario staying very close to Cristiano, and all of a sudden the gap has just really strung out, and the lap time difference, when he leaned down that mixture, it's about 5 to 7 tenths of a second per lap. When he was able to use the fuel that he needed, he was able to keep Cristiano right there. But when he had to lean it down, the horsepower difference, depending on the setting, can be 30, 40, 50 horsepower.
Our pictures coming to us from Canadian television. You had a good look at Patrick Carpentier. So we have a Toyota, a Honda, and a Ford running in the top 3 positions. Derek Daly has more on Dario.
Just spoke to Kyle Moyer. He's team manager for Dario. I said, how's everything going? He said he has turned the fuel down more than we thought we needed. I said, is he free to do that? He said, Dario's a great thinker. He said the most important thing is that he secures second place through these first stops. Therefore, he's more comfortable turning the fuel down, making sure he gets right to that 21-lap number. So strategy playing out, despite the fact that he's turning it down, and happy to do that.
Well, it might be a play on banking on a yellow. If he saves fuel again, as long as he maintains second position, they get a yellow. All that advantage goes away, and maybe they burnt less fuel. They're able to stay stationary a little bit less time, and maybe try to get by D'Amata by not having to sit as long on the pit stops.
Now let's take a look. Earlier this morning, Martin Fake, in charge of track construction for CART, went out to have a look at the patch job that was done overnight. There are 3 support races, including the Toyota Atlantic Championship, the Canadian Fran-Am cars, and the Barber Pro Series running this weekend. So this track has taken a bit of a beating. We're also seeing some small patches down in the hairpin. There's a look at turn 1. Now we have a full course yellow being declared. Pits are open. That's Alex Tagliani. I understand Mario Dominguez has stopped. There is the Mexican rookie down in turn 2. Simple Green Kart Safety Team will be dispatched, and we have pit stops. The race leader is in. Dario Franchitti stays on track, but the race leader is in. Calvin Fish is there.
Well, let's see how the crews respond. They really had to be on their toes. They had no idea that he'd be coming in, but these guys are very well versed. Looks like a routine stop. Look like good tires going on here for Cristiano. Quick dirty off. He's back underway and keeps the lead.
Speed, watch your speed. 4 tires to the left of the line. 4 tires to the left as you exit.
That's the white line I was talking about. There it is, and it looks like D'Amata got it done. Pit stop for Alex Tagliani. Derek Daly.
Tag comes in. I don't see any changes. Clean. Accelerates away. Gone. Quick for Patrick.
Interesting that D'Amata would pit so early. This is on lap 13. See Oriol Servia coming out with the player's car. Tagliani just behind. There is Dominguez. He has not moved yet, so we'll take a break. Under yellow, our second of the day. We'll be right back to Montreal. Saturday in Montreal, the top rung of the kart development ladder, the Toyota Atlantic Championship, saw a great race that sets up a 2-man battle for the season title next week in the season finale in Denver. Many of the drivers in Atlantics came from the Barber Pro Series. Before that, the Barber National Championship. But the first step on the ladder of development is... God.
The car starts tomorrow program, I think.
I'm sorry. Well, I blanked on... Back live in Montreal, you saw Mario Dominguez walking away. Reports from the corner workers say the engine just stopped on Dominguez's car. He becomes the second car out of today's race. Kenny Brack was the first. 16 cars remain. The leader is Dario Franchitti. Here comes Oriol Servia, headed for the Patrick pits, where Scott Pruitt awaits him.
Just working his way in. They think they may have a half shaft problem or a gearbox problem. You see the Vision team go to work, taking a look at the back of the car, changing 4 tires, putting fuel in. They're taking a look. Nope, there is an issue. It looks like there is a half shaft broken. Derek?
Dario Franchitti is now at the head of the field here. Kyle Moyer is his team manager. Kyle, I know you've had lots of discussions, but why did you not follow Cristiano in? Usually the old rule was do whatever the leader does under yellow.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the rule, but the way this plays out anymore, it's hard to pick. You got to stay on your own strategy. They still have to do 3 stops. We have to do 3, but the point is right now we're leading the race. So we're going to try to break away as good as we possible. Cristiano's in 12th right now. That's a place I wouldn't want to be with a car like he's got right now. So we're going to be up front with ours and see what we can do.
Thank you, Kyle. The key to it is the car that he has is potentially the fastest car in the race, but he doesn't have track position on his side, so he can't use that speed. Calvin?
Double D, very interesting strategy by the leader of the race, Peter Gibbons. You came in, you still need 3 stops. What's the thought process here?
It's just going to be a long race. Just planning on a lot of yellow, so it'll be all right.
Any concern about him now being in the thick of the field as you go back to green?
7 laps, the leaders have to come in, so we'll be out in front again, so we'll be all right.
All right, mate, thanks.
Well, Peter Gibbons said what I was going to ask next. If you're going to stay on that strategy, you better hope we have more yellow flags.
Even if I don't see how either way it makes all the difference in the world. We'll see how this plays out. They haven't made any mistakes in that regard yet this year, but the window doesn't really open until lap 17. So this will be interesting to watch unfold. Be interesting to see. We've seen him back in the pack before at Mid-Ohio, but he had a damaged car. So be interesting to see if he tries to make up. We'll know right away if he's making some aggressive passes that they feel like they messed up and he needs to make some hay.
There's Paul Tracy. He had an interesting strategy with the Team Green crew last week at Road America. Green flag, according to Irene Chambers from Race Control. We're back underway. The running order is Franchitti, Carpentier, Junqueira, Vassar, Tracy, your top 5, and Christian Fittipaldi, Shinji Nakano, Scott Dixon, Adrian Fernandez, and Michael Andretti.
Big wiggles by both Franchitti and Carpentier. See if anyone was able to capitalize on that up in turn 3. Nope, still 1-2.
Jimmy Vassar coming under attack from Paul Tracy, though, less than a car length. There's Tracy. He has won at the 2 other Champ Car stops in Canada, in Toronto and in Vancouver. He would very much like to get the Canadian hat trick and be the first winner here in Montreal.
This is the 8-9 complex. We saw that Tagliani got a good run on Jimmy coming out of here. Let's see if Paul can do the same. Not as close as Tag was.
Honda, Toyota, Honda, Ford, Toyota, Ford, Honda, in that order. This is the Casino Straight, 190 miles an hour plus. Franchitti, one of 6 different winners in the Kart FedEx Championship Series this year. There's another one. Patrick Carpentier has 2 wins this year, his first multi-win season. And the pressure is on the team to bring him back next year, even though they have 2 cars, 1 driver under contract. They may be bringing in Paul Tracy, the rumor goes. That would leave someone out in the cold. Servia is also out of the race now. Scott Pruitt is with him.
Oriol and the Vision team, I know how difficult this must be. You guys were so fast this morning in the warm-up.
Oh, we went very fast all weekend. I mean, amazing. First thing, we got here Friday. The car was fantastic right away, P3, and we're always up there. And it's a shame. I know this is racing. I've been around for a while. I know these things happen, but it's a shame because every race things get better. The car is quicker. The old team, works better and things are starting to click. And I honestly thought that the Visteon colors were not be in the podium today because, even starting 14, the car was so great, I could say possible. But fortunately, something broke in the transmission and race over for us.
Well, best of luck next week in Denver. Hope things get turned around for you and the Visteon team. Calvin?
Well, Kenny Brack is looking pretty cool here, but deep inside, you have to be boiling over. Another first lap incident, Kenny. What happened down there? Did you know?
I think it was somebody. I think Tracy punted Tagliani and Tags punted me, and I went out.
Had you guys spoken before the start? There's a lot of concern about the first turn configuration here, Kenny. Did you guys get together and discuss it before the off?
Well, I mean, it was no problem. Everything was smooth, and then bang, I had a hit on the right rear, I guess, and that was it. I mean, it's nothing much to discuss, really.
All right, Kenny, sorry to see you have a short day once again.
What a season for Kenny Brack. 7 DNFs, most of them coming very, very early in the race. Here's a look at Paul Tracy. You heard Scott Pruitt mention our next stop next week in Denver. Montreal is the 3rd of 4 consecutive race weekends. Next week, it'll be another brand new circuit at the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Jimmy Vassar will be the man in the public eye there driving the Shell car. Christian Fittipaldi in the braking area for turn 12. to complete lap 17 of 80. Nearly a quarter of a way through the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. There's Cristiano D'Amata, currently 12th. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal here on Speed Channel, your home for the FIA World Rally Championship and our day-by-day coverage of perhaps the greatest drivers in all the world. This weekend it's Germany. Check out the action on Leg 3 tonight at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Speed Channel. Welcome back live to Montreal, Canada. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you. Dario Franchitti leads the inaugural Grand Prix of Montreal over that man, Patrick Carpentier and Bruno Junqueira. Jimmy Vasser is fourth, Paul Tracy fifth. Christian Fittipaldi, Shinji Nakano, and Scott Dixon. Those top 8 cars have yet to make their first stop. They'll have to do it within the next 2 laps.
I've been sitting here chewing on that D'Amata pit stop strategy, and no matter how much I chew on it, I cannot get it down. I cannot swallow that. So, but I'm glad they did it, because what it means is they're going to have to show every bit of speed that they've got. As soon as he hasn't made any positions up under green by passing guys on track. But what he's going to have to do is when they're out of sequence, he is going to absolutely have to put the hammer down, and we're going to see how fast that number 6 car is. And each one time that they equalize up on stops, after they've both made 3 to go, 2 to go, we're going to see how much progress he's making. So it's going to be very dramatic as we see what kind of speed that car has. When he's out front, we never know how hard he's pushing. Here, to overcome that, they're going to have to really hammer it.
There's D'Amata between Michel Jourdain Jr. and Tora Takagi on the racetrack as he heads into the hairpin. Meanwhile, down in the pit lane, Derek Daly has more on Paul Tracy.
And the hand Paul Tracy is playing is he is still in fuel conservation mode, because the team believe with the amount of fuel he has managed to save, they will only have 28 gallons to put in, so the shorter pit stop is what they're banking on to gain track position.
There's Alex Tagliani, very slow in the hairpin. I wonder if he has a problem in the low gears. Not long ago, he struggled in the chicane leading out of the start-finish straight. There's Tagliani, and he shot it.
Looks like he was heading for the pit lane.
As if he couldn't make up his mind whether he was pitting or not. Well, one way or the other. Tagliani, who spun in the hairpin, is now running 15th, last of the cars running. Oriol Servia, Mario Dominguez, and Kenny Brack are out of the race. There you see the pit lane. We expect the top 8 cars in on the next lap. Here comes Dario Franchitti. Been so quick so often this year, but until he won in Vancouver, he was having a very up and down season. A pole on the circuit of the oval track in Chicago, but could not win the race. He brings those top 8 cars in. Derek Daly is in Dario's pit.
Come around Derek, guys. Here.
This is one of the scariest times in racing. You can hear the revs on the limiter. Looks good. Fuel is in time. Oh, he goes, Calvin.
Having a problem picking up my... Oh, Paul Tracy comes out right in front of Jimmy Vasser in yellow.
Wow. They're supposed to accelerate in that middle lane and leave the outside one, and I think that was probably intentional. Put the major block on Jimmy in the pit lane. Those 2 guys are great friends. I had dinner with the 2 of them the other night, but I'm sure there's a little cursing going on in that shell car right now.
It's Alex Tagliani who stayed out. Adrian Fernandez did not come in. He takes over the race lead for the first time since the season opener in Monterey. Michael Andretti now second with 1 stop already in. Michel Jourdain Jr. third. Cristiano D'Amata is 4th. There you see Fernandez. There's D'Amata. Tora Takagi there in the Pioneer car behind him, and then Tony Kanaan running in 6th. Jimmy Vasser, a very close call. Scott Pruitt has more on him.
A couple issues with Jimmy. His right rear guy looked like he had some sort of problem. They were down on the ground and then had to go back up again. 2 more cars coming in as I speak. Michael Andretti and Adrian Fernandez both go whistling by me. Fernandez comes in, hits his marks. As you can see, 4 brand new Bridgestones going on. A full load of fuel going in. Waiting for the fuel, waiting for the fuel. And there he goes, 9.7.
Good quick stop for the Fernandez Racing crew. Fernandez, the only owner-driver in the series. That is until Michael Andretti takes over the reins at Team Green in December. Let's take another look at that close call between Vassar and Tracy, TK.
Now watch Paul Tracy right here. Here comes Vassar coming down the pit lane, and look at Paul just beelines it for the outside lane. Whoa, that's a case of you're asking the guy behind you to cut you a break. He technically doesn't have to. I mean, he has to if he wants to avoid a wreck, but that's really kind of using up your buddy there.
I guess. There is Kanaan. Now Michel Jourdain Jr. takes over the race lead. There you see the leaders. D'Amata second, Takagi third, Kanaan fourth. Calvin Fish.
Quick update on Patrick Carpentier's start. Looked very clean. They dropped the car early but waited for more fuel. I thought he was going to beat Dario out of the pits. The only change on the car, slight tire pressure change, dropping the numbers. The balance is good on the car, so it's an overall pressure change. Let's go down to Derek.
Dario Franchitti has a tiny bit of understeer. They said leave the car as it is. He's reasonably happy. The key to what's going to play out now is he is now only 9 seconds behind D'Amata. They believe in reality Dario's 20 seconds ahead by the time D'Amata has to make another 4th pit stop, fellas.
Well, Michel Jourdain Jr., you see completing his pit stop. That puts Cristiano D'Amata back into the race lead, working lap number 24.
Based on my calculation, it's actually more like 16 seconds ahead probably if they have comparable pit stops, but that'll be something to watch. Now, Cristiano wasn't able to put the hammer down until those 3 cars, Jourdain, Fernandez, and Michael, got out of his way. But now here's where we're going to get to watch a clinic and see how much speed Cristiano has. He's really got to hammer it to try to overcome what I feel is a major faux pas on strategy.
Well, he's already opened a gap over toward Takagi and Tony Kanaan in 2nd and 3rd. There they are in the hairpin. But he's going to have to gap them by a lot more than that.
He might be able to do it, but it's not going to be why they had to do that. They did. They were the guys that could set the tone. But now that it's kind of sealed, if he can make up, maybe 6-7 seconds per stint, he can probably overcome that deficit.
He pitted on lap 12, so he'll be back in on lap 33.
His last lap was a 21.9. This one was a 21.1.
Been a staggering qualifier this year, has Cristiano D'Amata, picking up bonus points for provisional poles and pole positions, as well as laps led in the race. By my rough count, he has about 18 bonus points picked up. Gets 2 more, he'll have a full race victory worth of bonus points. It's easy to see why he has a 44-point margin in the championship with 7 races to go, including today's inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. There is Michael Andretti. We'll take a break and return to Quebec in just a moment. Next week, it's on to Denver, Colorado, in the frontal range of the Rocky Mountains, and the return of the Champ Cars. Yes, return. Back in 1990 and 91, the Champ Cars rode the streets of Denver. Al Unser Jr. won both events. They haven't been back since. That is until next week, and we'll have it for you here on Speed Channel. Friday qualifying live at 4 p.m. Eastern. Kart Friday night coming your way at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, it's live qualifying at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. The Toyota Atlantics will wrap up their season and crown a champion at 5:30 on that Saturday, live here on Speed Channel. And then the Shell Grand Prix of Denver, live beginning at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race coverage. There's a look from our Honda Skycam. That is Dario Franchitti. He and Cristiano D'Amata are not on the same piece of racetrack, but they are locked in a battle. Every time D'Amata ratchets down fast lap of the race, Franchitti goes just that little bit quicker. But last time around, D'Amata was in at a 120.8. Franchitti perhaps held up slightly, 121.2.
I'm not sure.
You see the gap. Let's go to Derek Daly.
With a man who no longer cares about fuel strategy, Mario Dominguez, what happened?
We don't know. The car just turned off on its own, and who knows? Last time it was a fuel pump. Who knows what this time?
Sorry, Mario. Next time, better luck.
Good luck indeed.
Quick
the
up.
only rookie in the series right now. Oh, that is Patrick Carpentier going slowly in the player's car. Carpentier currently 6th. He's in the pit lane going slowly with a rough running engine. He's got a long way to crawl. He's still about 6 pits away from his own as the officials and crew come to push him in. Scott Pruitt.
Patrick Carpentier going very, very slow past us. Some sort of problem. A follow-up to third runner Tony Kanaan. They're happy with the car. Everything's going their way, at least at this point in time. And for Tora Takagi, we talked about brakes at the start of the show. They're starting to get hot. His pedal's starting to go soft. So they're telling him, take it easy on the brakes. This is still quite a ways to the checkered flag. Calvin?
Well, the report was just a big bang at the back end of the player's car. They're not sure if it's engine or transmission. They're trying to refire, and they give it the kill sign. So the day is over for Patrick. He's climbing out. Steering wheel is off. And problems for Tagliani, too. He's lost radio communication with the team. He's not run the lap times they need to see. They believe he may have a gearbox problem.
Tagliani's last lap, 1:24.5, so he's well off the pace. Tough day for the players' team, from which so much was expected by this enormous Canadian crowd. And look at the media close in on Patrick Carpentier. That's one of a racing driver's toughest tasks. When your day goes south, you still have to go meet the press and explain what happened. That'll be a big disappointment to the crowd, but the race goes on. Cristiano Damata out front and lengthening his gap over Tora Takagi. The guy he'll be watching is in 4th, Dario Franchitti. Welcome back. A look down at race leader Cristiano Damata here in Montreal. Here's a look at the pit situation. Damata, 2nd place Tora Takagi, 3rd place Tony Kanaan will be due in 3 laps on lap 33. Dario Franchitti, Bruno Junqueira, also Paul Tracy, Jimmy Vasser, Shinji Nakano, Scott Dixon, and Christian Fittipaldi will all be in on lap 42.
And until lap 33, we're comparing apples and oranges because Cristiano has 3 more stops and Dario and most of the field only has 2.
There you see Patrick Carpentier out of the race and very emotional. His 4th DNF of the year, following Long Beach, Milwaukee, and Chicago. He has been working 24/7 this past week, meeting all the media and sponsor demands here in his home country. We understand he would like to gather his thoughts for a while before talking to the press, and that's fine with us. His teammate Alex Tagliani continues to limp around, a 1:23.6 that last lap. So Tagliani, as Derek mentioned, no radio contact. He's got problems. There's Tora Takagi running 2nd. One of his best runs of the year. His best finish this year was 4th on the oval at Chicago Motor Speedway. There is Tony Kanaan. What a weekend he had last week at Road America. Got in a grand total of 10 laps on Friday and Saturday combined. Blown engines, broken race cars. He was going out of his mind, then climbed in the car on Sunday. The team bet him he couldn't pass 5 cars in the first lap. He passed 6 to win himself a free dinner, wound up 4th in the race.
Actually, he passed 6 on the first lap, got penalized because he passed Jourdain when Jourdain missed a shift on the start, so he had to give 3 of those back, passed those guys again, and made it all the way to 4th.
Wanted to make sure he got that dinner. There's Dario Franchitti, now shown 11.3 seconds behind race leader Damata in 4th place, behind Takagi and Kanaan.
And one thing that's conspired against Cristiano is while Cristiano has had clear track in front of him, so has Dario. When Dario came out after his pit stop, he was about 9 seconds behind Tony. And so the whole time when Cristiano was trying to make hay, Dario also had a clear track and was matching him, even though he had a heavier fuel load, was always within about 2 or 3 tenths or even to what Cristiano was doing. I'd like to hear whether Peter Gibbons is still comfortable with that strategy.
Another quick lap by Damata, 1:20.382 seconds. He's trying to do everything possible to open up that gap over Dario Franchitti. The gap is now 12 seconds. Here comes Bruno Junqueira, running 5th, 21.5 seconds roughly behind the race leader.
Cristiano is actually putting enough distance on everybody else. He's going to be able to move up. He'll probably still end up on the podium if things keep going this way, but unless Dario has some problems, Dario is matching him well enough speed for speed that he's not nearly making up enough time, at least on this stint.
You see the Haviland crew getting ready for D'Amata's stop. I mentioned earlier, Paul Tracy is going for the career slam, if you will, in Canada with wins in Toronto, Vancouver, and now Montreal. D'Amata right there already has the pole slam in a single season. He started first at Toronto and Vancouver. Here comes Alex Tagliani. D'Amata will be in this lap. Here comes the race leader. D'Amata is in.
Look for Timmy. Look for Timmy.
50-mile-an-hour pit speed limit.
Into your box. Hit your marks nice and square.
Calvin Fish.
Cristiano D'Amata hits his marks perfectly. Shouldn't be any change. He's putting sticker tires on here, so this should be a very competitive run for Cristiano. Maybe he can make up some more time. He's out of here. I just spoke to Peter Gibbs. I said, are you comfortable with that decision, Peter? He said, well, we made it. We have to live with it. Let's go down.
Real hectic down here. Both Tor Takagi, Tony Kanaan hit it at the same time. Both guys, no changes to the car. 4 brand new Bridgestones going on. A full load of fuel and off they go.
Well, there's the answer we were looking for Peter Gibbons and the crew. I wish we could have that back.
There's a difference between happy with it and have to live with it. Now, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for Dario, he's putting some big time on everybody else. So if Dario has any trouble or does not have a similar stint these next couple times and can't maintain that speed, Cristiano might be able to overcome that.
There's Dario Franchitti, the new race leader over Bruno Junqueira. Cristiano D'Amata comes back out in 3rd place. Paul Tracy is 4th. Tor Takagi 5th. Jimmy Vasser 6th. Shinji Nakano in 7th. Then Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan, and Michel Jourdain Jr. round out your top 10. More pit stops coming, though, including the race leader. Welcome back to the Ile Notre Dame in the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the St. Lawrence River across from Montreal, Canada. The inaugural kart Grand Prix of Montreal. I'm Bob Marcia with Tommy Kendall, Calvin Fish, Derek Daly, and Scott Pruitt here on Speed Channel. Approaching the halfway point of this race, there's a look at your leaders. Dario Franchitti over Bruno Junqueira. Cristiano D'Amata has made his 2nd stop. He runs in 3rd place. 6th through 10th. Shinji Nakano, Tor Takagi. Scott Dixon got under Takagi for the position a moment ago, but spun it back into the hands of the Japanese driver. Christian Fittipaldi runs in 11th. Michael Andretti 12th after a handful of pit stops in the first half of this race. And then the cars out of the race. Patrick Carpentier, Oriol Servia, Mario Dominguez, and Kenny Brack. Here's a look at our Bridgestone race summary. The leader is Dario Franchitti. 5 lead changes. Dario has led 13 laps, including the 800th of his Kart FedEx Championship Series career. Here's a look at those cars out of the race. Perhaps none more disappointed than local favorite Patrick Carpentier, as you see his teammate Alex Tagliani going slowly. First, Patrick with Derek Daly.
Indeed, Patrick, we saw you in tears. I know it's hard to find the words to describe the emotion of a mechanical failure in this type of environment.
Yeah, it's sad, especially because you don't always get the chance to run up the front, and this weekend the team did a fantastic job. We had a fast car and running well there, but I started to lose a bit of power, and I was struggling to keep up with Dario, and at the end the engine gave up, but Ford Cosworth did an amazing job with the traction control, the engine, and I guess it's part of racing, but it's a shame it happened in front of the crowd here.
All weekend, Patrick, everywhere you went, every time you drove by on a lap, you have such an enormous support system here in a town that you grew up in. I mean, that probably really digs deeper than anything else.
Yeah, and that's why it's disappointing. At the beginning of the race, I couldn't believe how loud people were screaming and yelling, and every time I was going around some of the corners, people were standing up, and it was fun to see, but hopefully I'll get the chance to come back next year.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
That is a classic rueful smile from Patrick Carpentier. What a disappointment for him. There is Cristiano D'Amata running 3rd. Now watch, this was Scott Dixon and Tor Takagi a couple of laps ago. Takagi on the outside. Dixon has the position, and then, whoa!
That's a function of being in where there's no grip. All weekend, everybody's been braking on the left side, and so Scott got in there on the inside. Tora, a notorious late breaker already, doesn't give you a lot of advantage or opportunity to get all the way up along the side. So Scott was able to gather it back up, and none the worse for wear.
There's a look at Bruno Junqueira running second, about 10 seconds behind race leader Dario Franchitti. Let's get more on him from the pit lane.
I just spoke to Bill Pappas, his engineer, Bob, and he said that we're really in fuel conservation mode right now, so it's not just limited to the Honda runners here. Obviously, Bruno has a Toyota in the back end of his car. Car is good, well balanced. They're not expecting any major changes when he does come in for his stop, but they here at Target Chip Ganassi cannot believe the move that Cristiano D'Amata and the Newman Haas team made by bringing him in early. Let's go down to Scott Pruitt.
A follow-up on Adrian Fernandez, more engine problems. Some sort of boost issue. They've dropped boost about 2 or 3 inches. He says he's really lost a lot of power. But the good thing is, if there is a good thing, it's stabilized. It's not going to get any worse. It looks like it's going to stay where it's at. Not as much horsepower as they want, but at least hopefully they can make it to the checkered flag. Derek?
With Neil Mickelwright, team manager for the Players Forsyth team. Neil, we see Tag beginning to run slowly. Do you have an indication what his problem is?
Unfortunately, we've lost radio communication with him, but looking at the telemetry, it looks as though we may have a gearbox problem. We're not seeing him use all of the gears in the way that he normally would. So we're pretty sure that's what the problem is. We're all just doing it by sign language right now, and we're going to keep going, try and get some points.
Thank you, Neil. Unfortunately, sign language will not fix that gearbox problem, which is the same affliction that Patrick Carpentier had.
Thank you, Derek and Calvin. We are working lap number 39. By lap 42, we expect Dario Franchitti, Bruno Junqueira, Paul Tracy, Jimmy Vasser, Shinji Nakano, Scott Dixon, and Christian Fittipaldi all in.
And now we're on an apples to apples comparison again, because each of these guys has 2 more stops. So you've seen how far D'Amata's pace brought him all the way up to 3rd just in that first sequence. Didn't make much of a dent in Dario's overall lead, but he's taken big chunks out of Bruno's.
Next time by, we'll be at the halfway point of this race. Take a break and return live to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for more of the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Don't go away. Welcome back to Montreal. Bob Barsha, Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you for the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Flashing off turn 13, Paul Tracy. There's Jimmy Vasser. Behind him, Shinji Nakano. The race leader is Dario Franchitti, who clicks off fast lap after fast lap. Currently running in the low 120 zone. His gap over second place Bruno Junqueira is out to 11 seconds. Cristiano D'Amata a full 18 seconds behind the leader. Paul Tracy 25 seconds behind his teammate Franchitti. We've had 2 caution flags for a total of 6 laps. There is Franchitti.
Now for D'Amata to win and overcome that mistake by the crew calling him in early, it would be like rubbing every other competitor's nose in it, because it would mean he made up 26 or so seconds on the track. Now Dario says, watch this. Over that whole stint, right before his last pit stop, Dario was 16 seconds ahead. Now he's 18.4. So over that whole stretch, pit stops, the whole ebb and flow, Dario actually pulled out 2 seconds. So Dario showing some incredible speed here as well.
Derek Daly.
And he still has 6 gallons in the tank. They expect to only put 29 gallons in. He said the car is perfect. The trace of understeer that he had earlier is now gone.
Cristiano D'Amata crosses the start-finish stripe now as Dario Franchitti leaves. Bruno Junqueira comes in from second place. Calvin Fish.
Routine stop for Bruno, sticker tires, so he should be quick on this stint as well. Should be a short fill, we believe. But actually they're waiting for a few more drops. They're in full conservation mode. Good start for the Target team. Let's go down to Scott.
Jimmy Vasser, same thing. 4 brand new tires going on, full load going in and out of here, quick and clean, no problems, no changes.
Ooh, a lot of pit action. Paul Tracy, a bit of a slow stop, I think. He comes out behind Jimmy Vasser. Scott Dixon completing his stop at the Target Ganassi pits. Let's find out more on Tracy's stop from Derek Daly.
I asked John Anderson, the team manager for Paul Tracy, why the slow stop. He said, we needed more fuel.
Paul Tracy running the Honda Turbo V8. Cristiano D'Amata assumes the race lead. Dario Franchitti now slots into second, about 5.5 seconds behind the Brazilian. Tora Takagi now third. There's Franchitti. Just approaching the braking zone for the chicane, leading onto the start-finish straightaway. There's a look at pit lane. Growing basin at the top, the lake at the bottom. There's the gap to the race leader. In the center corner. Waiting for the late three-time Formula One world champion. There's a long blast up to 3. We'll pick up Vassar, but Tracy all over the back of him. This is the Casino Straight. Paul goes down the inside. Oh, Vassar fought him on the brakes for a moment. Tracy makes the move and will take over 8th place.
We saw Jimmy start to squeeze him and then left him room. So that's about, I've talked a little bit about blocking. That's a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and that was kind of good, solid defensive driving, but he didn't go too far. Once Paul committed to going further inside, he held the lane, let him try to see if he can get it done on the slippery part of the track.
So Tracy moves into 7th place. Correction, Jimmy Vassar is 8th, Scott Dixon 9th, Christian Fittipaldi 10th. It's another look at the move. We'll take a break and return live to Montreal after this. There's a look down on the lagoon at the center of the Ile Notre Dame, around which circles the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, technically a permanent road circuit, but actually using park roads that are used only twice a year for racing. This is the second largest French-speaking city in the world. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall with you. You're watching Tora Takagi running in 3rd place, and joining us now, Patrick Racing's Townsend Bell, fresh off a visit to Hungary for the Formula One Grand Prix. Townsend,
hey guys, good to be back. It was fun over there. It was raining a lot in Europe, but fortunately the storms missed Budapest in that area, so I enjoyed it. It was a neat track, and Formula One's a fascinating spectacle. It was a good time.
What do you make of what you've seen thus far in today's race?
Well, it's hasn't been quite as racy as I first thought it would be, just looking at the format of the track. You know, Damata's on an interesting strategy here. I'm sure we're all waiting to find out what actually happens over the race distance. But they took a big gamble by coming in there early. Right now, it doesn't look like it's going to pay off, but maybe they know something we don't.
Look at Bruno Junqueira there, running in 5th spot, 23.9 seconds behind the race leader. The order is Damata, Franchitti, Takagi, Kanaan, and that man, Junqueira.
Now, can you update us status-wise on the announcement, both of what was going on over in Hungary, Formula One-wise? You have anything working over there? And 2, Oriol was supposed to be in the Patrick car for 5 races.
Right.
And then it was going to be evaluated. Any update on what's going on there?
No update right now. I mean, being out of the car certainly wasn't my first choice, but I took the opportunity to go to as many races as I can, both in kart and other series. So there's some other opportunities out there. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens here, like a lot of people. But it's going to be several weeks before I know really what's going on for next year or this year.
Now, you've been in a handful of Champ Car races. Have you been in a situation where you got dialed out of things by a mess up in pit strategy and you were trying to rebound? What does that do to the psyche?
Well, I think a couple of times. I guess in Toronto this year, we got out of sequence. We were pushing hard, trying to stay ahead of the guy we're watching right now, Damata. Also at Laguna Seca. You know, when there's no cars in front of you in this series, you're trying to go as fast as you can all the time, assuming that you've got the fuel to do so. The only time you might lean out these days is in traffic, simply to make it so that you don't have to fill the car up as much. You don't have to spend as much time in the pits.
Now, in those 2 circumstances, Laguna was because of the first lap accident. You got caught in Adrian's mess there. Now, at Toronto, that looked like it was working out for you.
Well, Toronto was okay.
Pretty quickly.
The problem there is we were just slow. I mean, we were at least a second off the competitive race pace at the front. We struggled a bit there on the street circuit, but Laguna, we were running just fine. It's a shame that happened at the start. I think we ended up 7th, but had we been in the mix of things at the start, we could have been all right there. We had 2nd fastest race lap, so.
Cristiano D'Amato right there, race leader by 12.1 seconds now over Dario Franchitti with 47 laps in the book in this 80-lap race. Of course, D'Amato is Toyota powered. Our first Toyota spotlight of the day focuses on kart's ladder of development for drivers. What's been going on this weekend? Saturday here at Montreal, the top rung of the kart development ladder, the Toyota Atlantic Championship, saw a great race that sets up a 2-man battle for the season title next week in the season finale in Denver. Many of the Atlantic drivers got there through the Barber Pro Series, and before that, the Barber National Championship. But the first step on the ladder is the Kart Stars of Tomorrow.
The Kart Stars of Tomorrow program, I think, is awesome. As I understand, it was basically an idea brought on by Brian Herta, and I think what's good about it is it gives these kids some incentive, you know, to go after something, you know, to excel in a category that will be noticed, if you will. So again, when you come out of karting today, you know so much more than ever before, so as a training ground, it's precious.
It's the first rung of the step. You know, really, there's a lot of diversity in karting. There's many different ways that you can go. But if you can get in the first rung of a ladder series, whether it be, you know, at the karting level, and then you move up to the Barber Dodge National Series, then Pro Barber Dodge Atlantic, so you kind of get to know the people in the system. Well, I think a go-kart really is the closest thing that you can get to driving an IndyCar. You see a lot of guys still at the IndyCar level still use the shifter kart or the 100cc kart as a way of practicing and just getting some extra exercise, because the cars relate a lot more than driving a Formula Ford or something like that.
There's no question from an experience standpoint, if you wanted to get to Champ Cars or Formula One, you had to start in go-karts. But it was also quite fragmented, and now kart has helped clarify that path with the Stars of Tomorrow.
Let's get you updated on where things stand. First, the results of the Road America round of the Stars of Tomorrow. Matt Jaskol driving for Paul Tracy's factory karting team, won over Kyle Martin and Alan Rudolph. And the Toyota Atlantic Championship yesterday, Rocky Moran Jr. picked up his second career win, his first of the year. John Fogerty second in points, second on the racetrack. Michael Valiente, the points leader, finished 7th. So there is a 6-point gap between Valiente and Fogerty going into the championship deciding finale next week on the streets of Denver, Colorado. The Barber Pro Series race today here at Montreal. A.J. Allmendinger has already clinched the national championship, and he picked up the race victory over Memo Rojas and Rafael Sperafico. Elsewhere this weekend, racing in South Carolina, the Amateur National Championship title was clinched by Grant Mayman, who took 2 victories. Tora Takagi comes in now for his 3rd stop. Scott Pruitt is there.
Brings the Pioneer car to a stop. No changes to the car. He's very happy with it. Still fighting a little bit of overheating under brakes. You tell him just be careful. 4 tires are on, waiting under fuel. And he's off. 9.0. Great stop for these guys. Calvin?
We expect Cristiano D'Amata in this lap. What they're going to attempt to do is trying to match the tire stop to the fuel stop. They don't waste any time in pit lane, and that's the strategy that Peter Gibbons and the boys I hope will play out. We also heard word that Chip Ganassi has been on the radio. Remember, he was at the NASCAR race last night. He got at 3:30 this morning. He's woken up. He's told Bruno, go after Dario. Get the hammer down.
Let's look at Cristiano D'Amata.
They were marveling, Bruno's team was marveling at how Cristiano's guys could call him in. Well, Cristiano's been going to work, and he's planning on rubbing their nose in it. Like I said, based on my calculation, it's going to be really close whether or not Cristiano gets out in front of Bruno. Dario's holding the gap pretty constant, but Cristiano's been taking big chunks out of Bruno's lead.
Calvin Fish is there.
In your box. 4 tires and fuel, guys.
Cristiano brings it in 50 miles an hour. Pretty bumpy here in pit lane, a lot bumpier than the racetrack. And they're going to put a scrub set of tires on. He had a brand new set on before. These are scrubs, may not have the speed that he had on the previous. Slight delay on the pit lane. Quick short fuel, 9.8 seconds on Cristiano D'Amata.
Where is Bruno? Bruno's coming down the straightaway right now. Cristiano's on cold tires.
There's Cristiano exiting.
He'll be okay on track position, but the cold tires situation is going to be about 4 or 5 seconds that Cristiano might lose here getting those tires up.
D'Amata there in front of you. You're on hot tires.
And that's exactly what Chip Ganassi just told his man. You got D'Amata in front of you, but you've got hot tires. Takagi back in, pulls a tear off his visor. And up come the revs. Pit lane speed violation brought Takagi back in for a drive-through. St. Lawrence River, at the bottom of your screen. There's There's Bruno Junqueira in red and white, trying to haul in the black Haviland Lola of Cristiano D'Amata. Let's get an update from Derek Daly on race leader Dario Franchitti.
Just spoke to Kyle Moyer again. The gap they're watching is the critical number that Cristiano leads Dario by when Cristiano's ahead. If it goes above 20 seconds, they get a little bit more concerned. When it's below 20 seconds, as it was just before that pit stop, they still feel they are in control over Cristiano.
Oh, a little tail-happy bounce through turn one there for Dario Franchitti. He was so emotional when he won in Vancouver, home race for his late friend Greg Moore. Dario owns a helmet, a driving suit, a set of driving shoes, and now, courtesy of Tony Kanaan, a pair of Greg Moore's driving gloves, the complete ensemble, one friend to another. We are back live at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, site of today's 13th round of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. There's a look down from our Honda Skycam. Again, our thanks to Honda for providing that aerial platform for our cameras. Look down the backstretch. There's Tony Kanaan. During the commercial break, he pitted, came out just ahead of the battle between Paul Tracy and Jimmy Vasser for 5th place. He was caught and passed by Tracy. He was on hot tires. But Jimmy Vasser has not been able to get back around. Well, he did once.
Unfortunately, that might be Jimmy's one and only opportunity here to get around. They were side by side down the back straightaway, then coming into the chicane, Tony out-deeped him coming in. Now Tony's tires will probably be warm, and it's going to be tough for Jimmy to have the advantage.
Kanaan bringing those tires up to temperature quickly.
Tony's done about the same thing as Cristiano, namely he stopped on one of those early yellows and put some extra fuel, was able to extend his window, and has been doing about what Cristiano has when he's by himself, really putting some laps together, and you're starting to see him shuffle up through the order too.
There's the race leader, Dario Franchitti. We want to catch up with our pit reporters. We'll begin with Scott Pruitt.
I just got done talking to Morris Nunn, owner of the Pioneer car that Tony's driving. No changes. He's happy with the car. Pretty pleased with his day, even though they started lucky number 13. Things are turning around pretty good for these guys today. Calvin?
Quick update on Bruno Junqueira. They have a bit of flexibility now. They can stop any time after lap 59 and make it to the end without another stop. And Bill Peppers will probably use the strategy that Cristiano D'Amata has, trying to match the fuel stop to the tire stop. We expect him in a little bit earlier than he has to be. Let's go down to Derek.
Just spoke to Chris Simmons. He believes Paul Tracy does not have the speed to catch Junqueira. They're totally engrossed in their fight with Jimmy Vasser. They're trying to pull a lead just in case they may have a slow pit stop because they have to put a lot of fuel in. Chris Simmons, remember his name? He actually won the Barber Dodge Pro Series, and now he's one of Paul Tracy's engineers. Nothing like having a man who was in the seat now beginning to call one of your races.
I got to give credit where credit is due. Is actually Jeff Simmons, Chris's brother, won 2 consecutive Barber Dodge championships. Chris raced Indy Lights for Team Cool Grain, as did his younger brother.
A couple of guys from the ladder system. You're on board with Paul Tracy, looking out through his visor. Let's crank up the sounds of speed and take a lap or so with PT. can always tell when you're on board with Paul Tracy. He keeps that visor cracked a little bit to get some air in there. The story goes that Paul Tracy couldn't believe he was only doing about 35 miles an hour in the hairpin in his champ car, so he went out on a wet track on Friday in his rental car to see what he could do, and couldn't break 30 miles an hour. So he decided, yep, I guess 35 is about right. We want to thank Townsend Bell for joining us in the booth. Townsend, good luck in the future.
Thanks, guys. Kind of cruel and unusual here with the onboard. I noticed Townsend was twitching there from withdrawals from not being in this car during those laps.
Yeah, I hope to be back out there soon, and thanks to all the fans for their support while I've been out of the car. I'll be out there giving you some excitement as soon as I can.
It's Townsend Bell with Patrick Racing. Paul Tracy coming off the hairpin. We'll take a break and return with more from the Grand Prix of Montreal. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Montreal here on Speed Channel. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Scott Pruitt, and Calvin Fish with you. You're on board with Scott Dixon. Here's a look at our pit situation. Race leader Dario Franchitti has about 14.5 seconds over Cristiano Damata when the Scotsman makes his next stop on lap 63. He's working lap 61 right now. Damata will be in by lap 72. Junqueira and Tracy will pit with the race leader. And Tony Kanaan will come in 2 laps after the second place Damata. Derek Daly.
Bob, it's just fascinating to be here in the pits to watch how they plot the race. Kyle Moore, team manager. Kyle, your job is to plot the strategic moves from here on in. As you look at the timing and scoring, do you see enough room for Dario to be reasonably comfortable?
Well, you're never comfortable, but, you know, I like what I see. I mean, we're 14 seconds up on Cristiano. We both have to pit. So right now, we're all on even par with the 14-second lead. I'll take those odds any day in Vegas. So, you know, right now, as long as the car runs all day and we look really good, Dario doesn't make a mistake, I think we'll be okay.
You mentioned to me earlier that you thought fuel, the lightness of a fuel load is more important than fresh tires.
Well, it seems like our quickest laps are toward the end of the fuel stint, so it means that the weight of the fuel's slowing the car down more than the tires. The tires, the Bridgestones are really, really good this week, and I don't know what, I mean, they're just fantastic, so the fuel's making more of a difference.
Thank you, Kyle.
And thank you, Derek. Shadow's beginning to grow long here on the Ile Notre Dame as you watch the race leader, Dario Franchitti, looking for his second victory of the year, following up on Vancouver. Another Canadian race on the tour. Another big crowd. Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. We've had huge crowds everywhere we've gone in Canada. There's Tony Kanaan. Whoa, Jimmy Vasser closing up big time under braking. Vasser heads for his final stop in the Rahal pit. Scott Pruitt.
And Jimmy Vasser is into the pits. They decided to come in 1 lap early, trying to break things up a little bit. 4 Bridgestones, a full load of fuel, waiting on the fuel. And there it goes. 11.8, a little longer than what they want.
What you saw there is obviously the break point where to get down to the 55 or the 50 for the pit lane speed limit is after the braking point for the final chicane. So it looked like he was going to run into the back of Tony Kanaan.
There's another look.
Tony's braking. Jimmy's not yet.
It makes it look fairly routine.
That'll actually cost him. You know, that's his chance to try to get back around Tony when everything shakes out. But that cost him probably, you know, 6, 7 tenths.
Vasser is back out now. Running just behind Christian Fittipaldi. Cold tires again. He may get caught here by Michael Andretti. This is for 10th.
You might say, well, why doesn't he just let those guys by? He's on cold tires, but he's really racing Tony Kanaan for when Tony makes his stop.
There goes Michael. Shinji Nakano in the green car behind Jimmy Vasser. Expect Dario Franchitti in this lap. Ooh.
It's almost a replay of what happened with Tony and Jimmy right after Tony's stop.
A long blast down the casino straight. See if Vasser can get a shot at Andretti. Michael's got a pit stop coming up in a lap or so.
Now Dario should be in a lap or so, and so to update you, Dario's in right now. Now, before the first stop, he was ahead by 16 seconds. Before the second, he was ahead by 18.4. It actually stretched it out. This time, he was ahead by 13.9. So gave back a little time to Cristiano, but they have plenty to give back, so they can just make sure take their time on the stop here. Derek?
As far as they're concerned, Tommy, you're absolutely right. They are in control. Oh, the bottle was the last thing to come out of the cockpit. Calvin?
Well, Dario's on his way out, Bruno on his way in. This will be 4 new Bridgestone tires, sticker tires. As soon as the tires are on, they will send him. Look for the big stick over the fueler. They're going to wait for all 4 tires to be tightened up. When the car drops, they should send him out. On his way for
Stop. Neat pit placement right there on the end. Paul Tracy is in. Derek Daly.
There are tire marks on both front wings of Paul Tracy's car. John Anderson said no changes. Paul is saying, why wait? Just enough fuel in his car. Great stuff by Tracy. Got more wheel spin and more blue smoke than anybody down here.
So a lot of gesturing from the cockpit by Paul Tracy, anxious to get back on the racetrack. We also saw the radar gun on the exit, 49. Could probably get closer than that to the 50-mile-an-hour limit. There is Cristiano Damata, who takes over the race lead, but remember, he's got another stop. Currently runs 10 seconds ahead of Dario Franchitti, 24 ahead of Bruno Junqueira, and 29 ahead of Tony Kanaan. We'll be back. Welcome back to the circuit. Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, and the inaugural kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Down on the hairpin is race leader Cristiano Damata. In the pits and climbing out is Tora Takagi with Walker Racing, currently the victim of brake failure. It's Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi battling over 9th place, and one of the players' cars, that's Alex Tagliani. In our second Toyota Spotlight, we'll take a look at how the players' team has fared in today's race. It began with so much promise as Alex Tagliani waved to the crowd during the driver parade. On lap 4, trying to pass Jimmy Vasser, he tossed it off the road and spun himself all the way to the back of the pack. Here's another look from down low in the hairpin. He has struggled to pull himself back up from there, losing the radio and apparently having gearbox problems, demonstrated by this near miss in the final chicane before the start-finish straightaway. Currently shown 14th on the racetrack, several laps down. As far as Patrick Carpentier, he too expected so much from this race, ran very strongly in the early going, but on lap 27, he pulled into the pits with gearbox failure. A desperate disappointment for one of the local favorites. Back to live action. Cristiano Damata at the bottom of your picture, increasing his lead to now 17 seconds with 1 pit stop to make, TK.
And you heard Kyle Moyer say at 20 seconds they start getting concerned. The way I have it figured, it's right around 23. 23 will probably get you out in front of Dario, and then you'll have to battle him on the cold tires. To be really comfortable, you probably need 26, 27 seconds before your tires are up to temperature. So Cristiano is laying down some laps. So this is what it all comes down to. Dario, last lap was a 22.6. Damata, a 20.5, 2 full seconds. He's got more fuel on his car right now. So this is where Damata has a chance. If he can do this, this will be phenomenal.
He's going to be called in, checking the gap at the start-finish. He pulled out another second. He's out to 18.3 seconds. Damata over Franchitti. And we expect Damata in this lap.
Nothing Damata does would amaze that crew at this point, but if he is able to overcome that mistake in strategy, they will owe him double time.
You saw him coming up behind traffic, Michel Jourdain Jr. That is Bruno Junqueira, and look at the smoke. His engine was way off song. Junqueira dropped back to 4th place. That looks fairly terminal fairly soon. And that will be a brutal disappointment for the man tied for 2nd in the championship coming in.
In a safe location, get off the track. You got smoke coming out of the car.
Now, if they have a full course caution, you're going to have what happened. Remember Damata, and Damata's going to try to come in and get back out, hoping there's a full course caution.
Good approach, Chris. Look for Timmy.
You heard Junqueira being told to park in one of the safe havens off the racetrack.
This is not going to be enough time for him to get back out in front of Dario.
Well, Cristiano D'Amata brings his car down the pit lane for the 4th time today, and that's the critical factor. Should be fueled very quickly. Tire change. Let's see what happens when he exits the pits. Can he get in front of Dario Franchitti for the lead?
No, he will not. Franchitti has already crossed the start-finish stripe as D'Amata brings it back out. Now these two, D'Amata and Franchitti, are battling for the bonus championship point for most laps led. D'Amata took a brief lead during that period he was out in front before pitting. We'll see if Dario Franchitti can get it back. Right now, D'Amata has a total of 35 laps in the lead. Franchitti's total is 30 to this point. We have 12 laps to go in the race as Junqueira finally heads for the pits.
Now, unless Cristiano short-filled to such an extent that they had to pit then, that again doesn't make sense to me because he was running really light fuel load unless they got spooked into stopping thinking there might be a caution. But even still, that kind of, the race is more or less run from that standpoint unless he can erase this gap and get by Dario on the track, which is not easy.
Sounded like a header, Bruno, a broken header. Sounded like a header.
Junqueira remains in the car while the crew from Target Chip Ganassi Racing goes to work. Paul Tracy moves up into 4th place behind Tony Kanaan. Scott Dixon now 5th. Jimmy Vasser now 6th. Michel Jourdain Jr. now 7th. Calvin Fish.
Well, the day may have got a whole lot better for Cristiano D'Amata, even if he doesn't get the win. Remember, Patrick and Bruno were tied for 2nd in the points. Both of them struggling here today. This is not good news. The side pods are coming off. I don't think he's going to get back out. Major smoke from the back end of the Toyota.
Patrick
Scott Pruitt.
Kanaan comes in with the Pioneer car. 4 sticker Bridgestone tires going on. Oh, he didn't quite keep on the brake. Fuel going in. And he's awake, running 3rd. We'll see if he comes out. If everything shakes out. Guys?
Kanaan looking for a podium. That would be a big lift for that Mo Nunn Racing team. See him making his way back out in turn 2. Here comes Paul Tracy, who had hoped to take 3rd place away from Kanaan. He won't be able to do that. Now, a few moments ago, down in the hairpin, Dario Franchitti, big lockup. Perhaps he saw that Shinji Nakano was spinning in front of him. Now watch for the car of Cristiano D'Amata. There he comes from the right of your screen. That is a big gain of territory. Junqueira out of the car. Derek Daly.
Update on Dario. The frustration grows here because that incident of the hairpin lost Dario 4 full seconds. So now the frustration goes up, as does the pressure on that man there, Dario Franchitti. Can he remain mistake-free, as Kyle Moore alluded to earlier on?
Well, we'll check his lap times. He appears to be running well. I don't know that he squared off those Bridgestones too severely. We'll take a break and be back. 10 laps to go in Montreal.
Back live in Montreal, and that is the stricken car of Adrian Fernandez, who has hit the wall exiting turn 7, torn the left rear corner and the rear wing off. Adrian, remember, is driving with a slightly cracked pelvis, and it's already, most of it's already happened. Gets into the wall again. You see the left rear folded back. And remember, Adrian has a cracked pelvis from his accident in Vancouver. Got out of the car under his own power gingerly, but and you see the car, little bit of fire there. This is a replay of Adrian getting out of the car. You'll see the Simple Green safety team arrive as well. The full course caution has come out as a result of this incident, so everybody is done with their pit stops, but now you're gonna have a shootout. Dario had about a 4-second lead in hand, and now it'll be down to 0. Everybody's good to go till the end.
That's safety 3, Mike Carey, Jeff Knapp, John O'Brien, and Lars Hansen from the Crack Kart safety team. All med techs, firemen, experienced rescue professionals. Let's get to Derek Daly.
With Don Halliday, Adrian's partner and the engineer. Don, it looked like a big impact, a lot of debris. Any indication what might have happened?
Yeah, just pushed to the wall, exiting turn 7, we think. And you know, he did well as a soldier to be out there for as long as he was, with the pain that he's obviously in from the accident. So sad end to not such a good weekend. So.
Yes, it is. Best of luck next week. Calvin?
Bruno Junqueira's out of the race. He sits next to his sister Diana. And Bruno, I know you'd love to be in that shootout we're about to see after the full caution period. What happened with the Toyota?
We don't know yet, but I lost power and I had to stop.
Early in the race, it looked like Dario had a little bit more pace than you. I spoke to Bill Pappas. He said you were having to save fuel. Do you think would have been in good shape at the end here?
Yeah, for sure, because unfortunately I lost the position for Carpentier on the start, and I just stay behind him. And when Carpentier had a problem, they said save fuel. I know that I could catch, or at least stay close of Dario, catch him a little bit, but I was saving fuel.
The fuel conservation, was that because you didn't have enough to run full rich for this distance, Bruno, or is it just you're trying to make the pit stops a little bit shorter?
Try to make the pit stop shorter, for sure. On the last pit stop, I could be in front of Cristiano, I think, and it's a shame because I could get, for sure, at least a podium finish today. And for a lot of races this year, just in the end of the race, when the points were almost there, I didn't score. That's big shame. I 5 races this year. I stopped like less than 10% of the race to the end.
I think Bruno said, oh, when anyone is able to capitalize by being second in place in points, they really don't seem to be able to keep it together for the full race distance.
Well, actually, the sad total is 6 DNFs for Bruno Junqueira, and yet tied for second in the championship coming in. You can understand his frustration. If the car doesn't stay together, he just can't score the points he needs. Our third full course caution of the day. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Montreal. There's the view from our Honda Skycam as Patty Mayer in the kart pace car brings Dario Franchitti, Cristiano D'Amata, Tony Kanaan, Paul Tracy, and the rest around. We expect the green flag this time by with 6 laps to go here at the inaugural Kart Grand Prix of Montreal. Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Scott Pruitt, and Calvin Fish, glad to have you with us. That red box at the upper left will turn to 6 when we cross the start-finish line.
We're going green this time 5. Green this time 5. Make sure you get the stuff off your tires. We're going green this time, so you copy.
There's a look at the top 10. That was Dario Franchitti's radio. Shinji Nakano runs second in the line of cars, but he is 10th in the race, 1 lap down. We have 9 cars on the lead lap, and Nakano's pit with Fernandez Racing is being asked to tell their driver to step aside for the restart.
And I'm guessing their reply was Honda what? Meaning Dario Franchitti is also in a Honda, and Nakano doesn't have to move over. It's kind of a courtesy, but after all this, after the mistake by D'Amata's crew, after the heroic charge back, after the incredible defense by Franchitti, it's going to come down to this, a shootout between these two guys. Now, last time on the last restart, both Franchitti and Junqueira got really crossed up in turn 2 on the cold tires with the buildup, so that could open the door for Cristiano.
Adrian Fernandez out after that crash. We have 11 cars running on board with Paul Tracy, 4th in the race. Off the corner they come. Nakano in green and white following the race leader. Cold tires. Six laps to go. Calvin Fish.
Quick update on Cristiano D'Amato. It was Peter Gibbons who actually went down to Fernandez Racing to ask for that favor. He came back with a smile on his face, and it looked like that worked. But remember, Dario's last win in Vancouver, similar scenario. Shootout with Paul Tracy on cold tires, and Dario was the man that day. But Cristiano has been the man all season. Let's see what happens.
And Nakano has not yielded yet. It doesn't really look like he's holding him up either. Now, Tony Kanaan, how about a shout for him? He has shown the same kind of pace as our front 2 guys to get back up there in 3rd place after coming from 13th. Looks like D'Amata took a look down the inside of Nakano. Still nothing doing. And meanwhile, Dario is checking out.
Being told race control is strongly encouraging Shinji Nakano to make way for those behind him.
The damage is already done. Definitely outnumbered in the Toyota. You've got, oh, and Nakano bombs the chicane. Outnumbered, the Hondas, there's a Honda leader, Honda lap car, and then a Toyota, and then 2 more Hondas with Kanaan and Tracy.
Now the drivers have been told this year that blocking will not be tolerated, that you will be given 2 laps to acknowledge the blue move over flag. If you do not, you risk the black flag and having your number pulled.
And there's a key difference. Those rules have been in the books, but Wally Dallenbach, who's been the chief steward, has not been really cracking the whip on that. Chris Neifel, I believe, is back as acting chief steward now. They've kind of had a transition period. They threw Chris in at the deep end last year, brought Wally back to help smooth the transition, and he has yielded to Cristiano now. But I think Chris was not going to sit around and wait for that to develop for 2 or 3 laps before he issued that warning.
So Nakano moves aside as you look at Paul Tracy. There's the gap back to Cristiano, followed by Tony Kanaan and Paul Tracy. So it's Honda, Toyota, Honda, Honda, and then the Toyota of Scott Dixon, the Ford of Jimmy Vasser, followed by the similar blue oval of Michel Jourdain Jr.
Christian and Michael Andretti dancing back there a ways back in the pack as well, heading into the hairpin.
Once more down Casino Straight. Into the chicane, onto the start-finish straightaway. There will be 4 laps to go. This time by as Dario Franchitti leads. There you see the signboard, Derek Daly.
Much as Team Green would have liked to see Shinji Nakano not give way to Cristiano D'Amata, Kyle Moyer, in fairness, said, we expect him to move over. And he said, I think that's the way it should be. The 2 fastest drivers in the fastest cars should fight this out to the end.
He says that after they created a 1.4-second gap for him.
Yeah, well, bravo to them for saying that anyway. Tremendous speed there on the backstretch. These very, very fast corners, and that's what a racing car driver loves. It's one thing to go fast in a straight line, but going fast right on the edge of adhesion in a corner, that is what racing drivers live for. Tony Kanaan looking for a podium. What a boost for that team it would be. Paul Tracy and Scott Dixon running close together.
Now, this raises an interesting scenario. If Tony can get up close to Cristiano, for a second place for Tony is huge. For Cristiano with the championship and so forth, if Tony shows his nose in any significant way, I would expect Cristiano to not fight too hard for it.
9 cars on the lead lap. P1 for Dario.
Pulled out another full second that lap, 1.2.
Jimmy Vasser now closing up on the gearbox of Scott Dixon for 5th. 3 laps to go. What is that out of the back of Dixon's car? Uh-oh, problems for the New Zealander. Another Target Chip Ganassi racing car with engine problems. Straight on into the runoff for Scott Dixon. Gearbox, they're saying. There's the gap for the race leader to 2nd place D'Amata. Kanaan 3rd, Tracy 4th. Jimmy Vasser moves up to 5th with the departure of Scott Dixon. Michel Jourdain Jr. will go to 6th. Christian Fittipaldi to 7th. Michael Andretti to 8th. Shinji Nakano to 9th. Alex Tagliani to 10th. That washboard effect in the braking area for the hairpin. Here's a look at Dario Franchitti, leaning his head over the way he typically does. Not unlike Michael Schumacher in the Formula One Ferrari. Most of the other drivers hold their heads straight up and steady. If Jourdain holds on in 6th place, that will be his 13th consecutive points-paying finish this year. Something no other driver has done. The record is 23 straight, held by Alonso Sr. D'Amata not making any dents. He was 200th slower that last lap than Dario Franchitti. Perhaps thinking championship, TK?
I would imagine. as the races click off, the championship it's not over yet, but I mean he's in pretty darn good shape. I think it'd be something like 50-some points with the both guys tied for second, dropping back. If he finishes here with there's still a lot of points left. But,
remember Mid-Ohio where he was chasing, and the name just went right out of my head. Patrick Carpentier, and threw it off the road with a mistake in the late laps. He doesn't want to repeat that. White flag for Dario Franchitti, looking for his second of the year. The winner in Vancouver, looking for his second straight Canadian victory in the Kart FedEx Championship Series.
What a drive by Dario, unbelievable. You know, I was saying, okay, now Cristiano's behind. He's going to put the hammer down. We're going to see what he's got. And Dario matched him lap for lap.
D'Amata took back a 10th on that last lap, but he needs a lot more than that, and it doesn't appear that he'll get it. 6 wins for D'Amata this year. The series record is 8, shared by Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr. But it looks like it's going to have to be another day for Cristiano D'Amata. Once more through turns 8 and 9. Here comes Paul Tracy, Jimmy Vasser, and Michel Jourdain Jr.
Jimmy's closing up on Paul. About a half second that lap.
There's Tracy. Jimmy make a lunge at it? Apparently not. On the casino straight for the final time, Dario Franchitti looking for his second victory of the year and a big step up in the championship. After much frustration in the early races of this year, he picks up win number 2 of 2002. Dario Franchitti, your winner. Cristiano D'Amata second, Tony Kanaan third, Paul Tracy fourth, Jimmy Vasser fifth, and Michel Jourdain Jr. in 6th place. Hugs all around in the Team Green pits. Look at the crowd. They may feel a bit of a link to Dario Franchitti after he was so close to Canadian Greg Moore. His victory in the Canadian race at Vancouver, such an emotional one, barely able to keep his voice from cracking on the podium.
They love their drivers, but they also really know their motor racing, and they appreciate a perfect performance like Dario put on today.
Podium is his 6th of the year. Will bring him 20 points in the championship, 21 that is, with the bonus point for most laps led. We'll be back in a moment to hear from him. Welcome back. As Kart FedEx Championship Series marches into the future, many drivers will write their name on the roll of winners at the Kart Grand Prix of Montreal, but only one man will have the honor of winning the very first edition. That man is Dario Franchitti, and there he climbs from his Team Green Lola Honda after smoking the tires all the way around this 2.7-mile racetrack to thank the Canadian fans. And you can see that smile right through the helmet. Listen to the crowd.
Dario Franchitti has victories in Vancouver. Victories
Helmet
in
is now off. We'll allow our Canadian colleagues to get first crack at the winner of their race. There is second place finisher, and now by an even larger margin, the championship leader, Cristiano D'Amata. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Cristiano, superb run, lead, but tell us about the strategy call there by pitting early.
It was half tanks, so we thought we would come in and most people were going to follow us. Didn't work. I think at the end of the day, the result, of course, was very good to us. I haven't seen the points yet, but I saw...
I know when Pat are out, so...
Yeah, exactly. I was informed by the team that Bruno and Pat didn't finish, so... You know, to win is better. Some second places are sometimes more important than a win.
When you saw the yellow flag, Cristiano, did you think you still had an opportunity to win this one?
Well, I had ahead of me Nakano, same engine manufacturer as Dario, so I didn't think he was going to give me any easy time. So, and I was in a position that I couldn't risk much too. So it's starting to get to a point where the championship weighing a little bit on the decisions they have to take from inside the car. So I was pretty happy with second place today.
Great job, mate. Well done. Let's go over Derek with the winner.
With the man of the hour here, Dario Franchitti. That race had everything. The yellow flag dramatics, the strategic call at the start. But when you saw Cristiano peel off and you didn't, were you concerned about the call?
No, it was one of those situations. You're either going to be wrong or right. We had a strategy. We were going to stick to it. It gave me a clear track in front, and we just had to see what we could do. It's one of these things. You've got to get track position, get a clear track, and go for it. My guys did that today. The guys at Team Cogreen gave me great pit stops, and everything ran faultlessly all day. So feels good.
And as it unfolded, it became yourself and D'Amata head-to-head to see who was fastest. That's the way it should be, right?
That's what it's all about. You know, we've had these races a couple of times this year, Cristiano and I, and very enjoyable, just pushing 10-10s the whole race, because you never know, is he going to come out of the pit lane in front of you or not? You just got to keep attacking, and that's what racing's all about.
Now, Shinji Nakano and yourself almost had an incident towards the end. Was it much to avoid him, or did you almost get caught up?
I've got to confess here that I actually locked up my rears before he spun, so it was two totally separate incidents. I was lucky to get away with that one.
Thank you. His 9th career win and 2nd of this season. Calvin?
Kanaan had another great run today, Tony. 2nd podium last 4 races, I believe, and early in the weekend, you turned it around once again, just keeping upbeat and trying to make it happen.
Again, I mean, qualifying this series means a half race, but we've been able to put that out. I mean, I've been trying my best, driving as fast as I can. The car was consistent, and that's what I need. I probably don't have the fast car out there, but it's very consistent. I need to say thanks to Ian, my guys, and Morris. I mean, they did a hell of a job.
Tony, talking about Ian Watt, the engineer. Did you have anything for the other guys, or was it just really you were behind the 8 ball all day from the qualifying?
No, really. We broke a header in the middle of the race, so we came in on fire. I was really concerned to not finish the race, so I wasn't trying that hard. Obviously, when I was there at 6 laps to go and third, I said, I'm not going to give up this podium. If it's going to break, it's going to break in the front. So, but hey, good luck you came back.
Great job, mate. Well done.
All right, thanks very much, guys. Here's a look at the final results. As Derek mentioned, 9th career victory for Dario Franchitti, 4 of them coming here in Canada. Cristiano D'Amata picks up valuable championship points in 2nd. Tony Kanaan picks up his 2nd podium of the year north of the American border. Paul Tracy comes home 4th, highest of the 3 Canadian drivers in the race. Good run for Jimmy Vasser and Team Ray Hall in 5th. Cars out of the race include Alex Tagliani, Adrian Fernandez. Tagliani did finish. Adrian Fernandez leads those who did not. We'll be back in a moment with more post-race. Great view on a summer afternoon in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Don't forget, we'll be at the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver next week, round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Tonight here on Speed Channel, check out NASCAR Victory Lane at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll want to hear all of the opinions after another typical slugfest at Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee last night. And then on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, NASCAR Inside Winston Cup Racing. As our panel of wise guys talk the whole thing over, that will be a very entertaining program. NASCAR Inside Winston Cup, 7 p.m. Eastern, Mondays, only on Speed Channel. Now let's get down to Derek Daly with Paul Tracy,
who had a long, hard day to finish in 4th place. Paul, first of all, tell us about the incident where you seemed to hit Tag at the first corner.
Well, I mean, that was just a first corner incident. We got in there and Tag stuffed it inside of Dixon, and stood on the brakes real hard, and I bumped into the back of Tag pretty lightly, but Dixon just kind of turned in like Alex wasn't there. Maybe he didn't realize he was there already. They locked wheels. Dixon kind of shot off to the side, hit Brack. So that was just one of those first corner things.
And then yourself and Jimmy Vasser, who of course is a good friend of yours, had a great dust up for the whole race long and almost collected each other here in the pit lane.
Yeah, we had a great race, and him and I knew not to get into each other because we got to fly home together for 6 hours. So we're actually going to drive in the same car to the airport, catch the same flight. So we knew we better not do any funny business today, but I had a great race with Jimmy. Him and I always have good races.
Thanks, Paul. I hope Jimmy has the same story. Let's go down in here from Calvin.
Jimmy, Derek was talking to PT, and he said you guys got close on a together tonight, so maybe that's what made it clean. But you think you had a podium car today?
I think we could have. PT got by me on the first stop. We had a little bobble, and then I ran behind him the whole next stint, and really I think it was holding me up pretty good. And And then we got by him in the pit stop. Guys did a good job and kept him behind me on the outlap. But, man, he just had a rocket ship down the straightaway. He was a full car length past me by the time I got to the braking zone in the chicane. And then same thing happened with Kanan when he came out on cold tires. I made a bonsai move to get by him in the hairpin because I didn't want to, I knew I had to, get in front of him. And then, he just motored right on by me on the straightaway, just like PT did. So, it just made it difficult. I felt that I could have been in front of both those guys, and we had a good car today, but...
A lot of progress, though, Jimmy. Last week at Elkhart, the top 10 finish, you were very frustrated that you didn't have the speed. You come here 1 week later, and you had a lot more speed, qualifying in the top 6 and the top 5 finish.
Yeah, we're chipping away at it. We could smell a podium today, but the race just didn't flow for us the right way, getting caught behind guys. I think Christian coming out of the pits, guys on cold tires, lose a couple seconds here and there. And then I got a little frustrated, drove off the track. But, hopefully we can keep making progress with the Shell car and get Team Ray Hall on the podium.
The Shell Grand Prix of Denver next week. That'd be nice, but for Jimmy, not only sometime, but maybe the first win of the year, guys.
All right, thanks very much, Galvin. See the podium ceremonies, trophy presentations. Tony Kanaan on the right, Cristiano D'Amata on the left. Sammy Sosa has nothing on those guys after hitting a home run. We'll give you a look at the championship points. For the second time this season, if I'm not mistaken, Dario Franchitti, his team owner Barry Green, accepts a trophy there. That's Dan O'Neill, president and CEO of Molson, the title sponsor for today's race. It's Barry's daughter with him. As I was saying, for the second time this year, a win for Dario Franchitti launches him up to second in the championship. Cristiano D'Amata now leads by 55 points over new second place man Dario Franchitti, 161 to 106. And there is Dario. We'll take a break and return for more of the post-race festivities. Stand by for more live from Montreal in Canada. Welcome back. Our final Toyota Spotlight of the day highlights the events of today's kart Grand Prix of Montreal. At the start with Cristiano D'Amata leading the way from pole position. The accordion effect down in turn 2 led to Paul Tracy making contact with Kenny Breck. Alex Tagliani involved in that mix as well. Breck was out of the race on lap 1. Tagliani managed to spin himself back to the back of the pack, and he could never recover. Same for Cristiano D'Amata, who pitted off sequence on lap 12, leading to 4 pit stops on the day. Patrick Carpentier, the day was a short one. Gearbox problems and a very, very difficult DNF for him to swallow. Bruno Junqueira lost an exhaust header and was out of the race, jeopardizing his position in the championship. Same for Dario Franchitti, who nearly performed a sympathy spin with Shinji Nakano, allowing Cristiano D'Amata to close the gap in the closing laps. But Dario Franchitti would not be caught picking up his second victory in Canada this year. Here's a look at our final Bridgestone race summary over the champagne spraying from the podium. Dario Franchitti, 9th career win, 4th in Canada, leading 43 laps for 1 championship bonus point. 9 lead changes in all, 3 cautions for a total of 7 laps. We'll be back with more. Stand by. Back to Montreal in a moment. Won the first Formula One Grand Prix here at the circuit in Montreal, now named for him. Dario Franchitti goes into the record books as the winner of the first Champ Car race, and it is a day of what might have been for Alex Tagliani. Let's go to Derek Daly.
Indeed, being consoled by his fiancée Bronte, who celebrates her 22nd birthday today. Alex, such an emotional weekend really for you with so much support, but I know you had a handful in the race.
Yeah, it was not the kind of gift I wanted to give her, but I guess we just need to smile and forget about this one and go to Denver. But even though we had a very bad race with the gearbox problem, radio problem, I really think that this weekend was a very good weekend for the kart series. I think a lot of people were impressed of the atmosphere, and for the people in Quebec, how knowledgeable about motor racing they are. So hopefully it will be even better next year, and we'll come back more competitive.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Derek. Happy birthday to Bronte. There is Cristiano D'Amata, still on the podium, pleasing the photographers. Another look at the final results. Franchitti, D'Amata, and Kanan on the podium. Same 3 drivers as there were in Vancouver a few short weeks ago. Paul Tracy finishes 4th, followed by Jimmy Vasser, Michel Jourdain, Christian Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti, who started dead last, finishes 8th. Alex Tagliani, the last car running in 11th. Adrian Fernandez crashed. Bruno Junqueira victimized by a broken exhaust header. Don't forget, next week, our 4th race in as many weekends. The Shell Grand Prix of Denver, beginning with live qualifying Friday, kart Friday night that evening, Saturday qualifying live at 3:30 Eastern Time. The Toyota Atlantic Championship decider from the streets of Denver. Then the Shell Grand Prix of Denver on Sunday, September 1st, live, beginning at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of this historic first running of the Champ Cars in the Gilles Villeneuve circuit in Montreal. For Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Calvin Fish, and Scott Pruitt, I'm Bob Varsha. See you next week live from Denver. So long for now from Montreal.